All right, so let's talk about James' connection between faith and our words. In James 1:26, he says this: "Those who consider themselves religious and yet do not keep a tight rein on their tongues deceive themselves, and their religion is worthless." That's a pretty harsh statement. Their religion is worthless if their tongues don't match up, their words, what they speak doesn't match up with their faith. I've known a lot of Christians who say a lot of crummy things to other people, who are hypercritical and say things you just think, are you kidding me? And they call themselves Christians. Well, I don't care if they have a cross or a big, heavy Bible. If they're using words that don't reflect their faith, there's something yet to be saved inside of them, transformed and delivered. Would you join me in saying that verse once more? This is from James 1:26. "Those who consider themselves religious and yet do not keep a tight rein on their tongues deceive themselves, and their religion is worthless." So let's consider for just a second, how do we sin with our words? How do our words end up bringing harm or doing evil? And what does it look like when we don't have a tight rein on them? And I came up with my own list. You could probably do this. If you have a pen and paper, you might just want to start brainstorming and writing down, here's ways that we sin with our words, and here's ways that we sin. But these are the ones that immediately came to my mind: profanity, making false promises, bearing false witness, lying and gossiping and backbiting, harassing, berating, belittling, inciting to evil, exaggerating. There's probably an endless supply of ways that we can use our words to harm other people. Let me say those again: profanity, making false promises, bearing false witness, lying, gossiping, backbiting, harassing, berating, belittling, inciting to evil. When I was a kid, my mom taught me probably the same thing your mom taught you: sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me. Let me ask you, is that true? And of course, we all know the answer is no, that is not true. Words can harm us. Words can bring pain to us. Words are powerful, and those words can be powerful in lifting us up or powerful in destroying or crushing us. So wrongly used, your words are a terrifying weapon that can destroy. And I think about adults, and people sometimes in their 60s or 70s who, when they were children, were told by their parents they were stupid, or they had no value, or they weren't loved, or maybe were never told that they were loved. And so the old tapes play, and they keep playing throughout their lifetime until they find Christ delivering them from the message that they'd heard. That's why the idea that God loves us and looks at us and values us and treasures us is so powerful, because some of us didn't hear that. I heard it when I was a kid, but some of us didn't hear that when we were growing up. And so instead we heard the opposite. Well, where are we going to find out that tape was broken and those messages were messed up if we don't find that in God's love and grace? So sometimes that ends up harming us the rest of our lives, those words spoken when we were children. I'm guessing there maybe are some words that were spoken when you were a kid, maybe not by your parents, maybe by somebody else that you still remember, maybe by a teacher or someone. But we certainly can find that there are words that will stick with us for the rest of our lives. Generally, teachers are building people up, but we just have times where there are words that have hurt us. I think about teens in our congregation whose funerals I've officiated at. And there are 3 that come to my mind right now. They were all boys. They were all 13, 14, 15 years old. I think one might have been 12, who took their own lives. And the taking of their lives had to do with the way they were talked to and bullied and picked on when they were at school, and had a hard time seeing any way out of that. Just felt overwhelmed with despair at their experience at school. This should not be how things work in our world. And when we as Christians, and I'm talking now to teenagers, for those of you who are teenagers or elementary school or middle school kids, when we're in school and we see somebody else being picked on or bullied, part of our task is to stand by those people and say, stop it. That's not okay with me. And to come alongside them and to bless them. But there are enough people out there in the world who will say harsh things. And I've seen the terrible results of that, the power of words to destroy. And then I think about in marriages. What does this look like when 2 people are married and they do this to each other? And I think about husbands that are henpecked, and they just, you see them and they feel defeated and they act defeated, and they, because they have been, beaten down. But then I think about wives who've been verbally abused by their husbands, and you see the same thing. And as you watch this, as people demean and belittle and berate, and what it does to a soul, the tongue has power to destroy.